So, I get to ask you all the questions, but Devin's going to edit this, so don't worry about saying anything.
No bad words.
But no bad words. But the first thing is you need to say, we'd like you to say your name and when you were born.
My name is John Picone, and I was born in August the 11th, 1923.
Uncle Len?
I'm his baby brother. I was born in March the 28th, 1928.
You've both lived in Dundas all your lives, and just tell us a little bit about how that happened. Maybe a little bit about your dad and coming to Dundas, just what you know and what you can remember. Daddy?
Well, I can remember my dad coming to Dundas. Of course, we were going back to in the 20s when I was born. Well, we were living at the present where the Picone store is now, 34 King Street West, and we grew up, and in the 20s things seemed to be normal, and they were getting along, my dad and my mother, and trying to make a go of things in their new world of business. And so, as you say, my dad used to let us work on Saturdays when we were a little older, and go and take a basket of fruit around to the neighborhood and try to sell some of the fruit and vegetables to our clients, and we did that every Saturday morning. And Saturday afternoon we were rewarded by being able to go to the movies next door to see a cowboy movie. And that I remember doing a lot of that growing up, and supporting the family business, and I'm trying to think of.
Well, when you weren't working, when you weren't helping your mom and dad, what were some of the things when you were 9 and 10 that you can remember with the way you entertained yourselves?
Well, for sure, and you can assert to this, that we played baseball every night after 4.
Really?
We'd come home from school. This would be up on Miller's Lane. We'd go up Miller's Lane. There was an empty lot up in Miller's Lane. It would be. And so we had baseball, but actually we after supper in the twilight hours when there was brightness, we played baseball, and after supper as well. So we did our share of playing baseball. We were into sports and that, playing marbles going to school. Everybody had a pocket full of marbles, and they would rattle around. So yeah, we enjoyed that, and. Of course, fighting with the other kids as well. There was always that going on. And
there's a picture of you when you were really little with the baseball team. Do you remember anything about that?
Not a lot, other than my next door neighbor, Ferris Gray, was very good to us. He was the druggist next door, and I guess he liked me because he picked me up and. Carried me over to have the picture taken with the baseball team, and all through our growing up, Ferris Gray and family, they were so generous with their time and with their cottage, even to be good to us that way. Yeah, that was really fun. And
Uncle Len, what do you remember about being little in Dundas? What are some of your outstanding memories?
I was going to say, what John did mention was the fact that he had an older brother, and they were both born on the same day, the same year, at the same time, which my dad was really proud of. And they were both born August the 11th, I don't know what time it was, but 1923, was it?
1920,
Joe was born in 1921.
Joe was born 2 years later. I was born in 23. Joe was born first. He was born in 1921. I was the one that created the fuss because I was born on the same day as my brother.
Yeah, well, he was
So
born
he was
August 11th,
1921. I was born in 23.
Now, there would have been a daughter, which would have made my mother extremely happy, would have made me super happy, between John and I. She didn't make it. She passed away at birth. But so I was the pain in the neck at the back, because I was too young to play around with them until I got older. Then I got into play baseball and marbles and everything else. But I had a boyfriend that I went to school with who was about the same age as myself. So he and I became almost brothers. We were together a lot. And we had a good time. We did a lot of things that, when we weren't doing anything in the store. One of the things that we were just talking about before we got here was the fact that we went to a creek up on Hope Street, and we learned how to swim. Which wasn't supposed to happen. We weren't supposed to go in the water.
You weren't supposed to go in that.
This friend of mine and I, we were determined that we were going to learn to swim, and we did. We learned to swim. Eventually, they built a pool in Dundas. I think that pool is still ongoing. And being the youngest one, I didn't have to put in as much time at the stores as Joe and John did. So I spent all my time at the pool. I was in it morning, noon, and night, and I got to be a pretty good swimmer and a good diver. And I was going to tell you there when we were talking before about diving off of the gate or the fence at Hope Street. There was quite a distance between the flat part and where you're going to go into the deep water. Some of the older ones were able to do it, and they had to really push hard to get over the cement. But anyway, as we got older, we would go up to Crystal Lake, I guess it was called at the time, and they had one side of the quarry was extremely high. It was about 30 feet, and we finally got talked into going over there and diving off that cliff. Which, I mean, we were diving off the 10-foot board and the 3-foot board at the swimming pool, but we never dove any height before. So anyway, we stood there for about 3 hours trying to get up the nerve to do it. Finally, I did it. When I hit the water, God, I had my arms out, but the impact just pushed my arms right back, and I hit the water and I come right back up just like a cork. But that was the only time I did it. I didn't try it again. But I enjoyed swimming. I had a great time, and then as we got older, we got into the tennis end of it. So we all played tennis.
Dad, you were a tennis player. Tell us about tennis. How did you get in? How did you get started in tennis?
I don't know. It's just as some of our group would go to the Dundas driving park where they had a tennis club, and so I guess we joined the tennis club, and it was another sport activity that we thought we'd enjoy. So we started to play tennis, which would be after supper Saturdays, and of course most of our friends were all tennis players. Like those days, I can't think of what other sport that we played baseball. We got to play a lot of tennis, and we practiced at home on a garage door. We just kept practicing and just get the motion going to try to improve your skills at getting the ball over the net. And so as the years went by, we got better at it, and more of our friends joined, and it was a nice was a nice sport to be part of. Growing up, we enjoyed that.
And you got to be pretty good.
Oh,
Well-
the championship one year.
Well, I must have been. I was maybe I was lucky that year. The other guy wasn't very good, I guess. But anyway,
And then later on, or maybe earlier, when you were at high school, you went to Dundas District High School,
mhm.
and you
And-
played some football.
Yes, we had a football team, and I was the kicker. I was the kicker on that team. Don't ask me how I got to be the kicker, but anyway, I became the kicker. And I remember, I think our first game with Waterdown in Dundas Driving Park, and I was kicking off for the. And my father came to see the first game. Thought he was going to see me play my first game of football. So anyway, I kicked off, and then I ran down as fast as I could, but I was hit by someone coming the other way, and I was knocked out cold, and I didn't get around to playing anymore in the rest of the game. That was my first experience with football, and so I'm sure I played some football after that. I did, but it was a knockout, and so I guess I was thinking more about the ball, not about being hit going down. But anyway, after you're hit a few times, you learn your lesson.
Uncle Len, you played football too.
I wanted to play football, and it was great. And I probably just like John. I would have. There was a guy that I chummed around with. I went to Cathedral City, and they had a big yard at the back there where we had recess. And he and I used to kick the ball the length of the yard, all recess. That's all we did. I'd kick it to him, and he'd kick it back to me, and I'd kick it back to him. And at this time, the war had already started, and of course, Joe and John had to go into the service. So I eventually had to leave school to go home and help Mom and Dad. I wanted to play up, but I couldn't play because I would have to stay after 4. At the same time, I was in the Air Cadets. They were set up in Westdale School and I was in it for quite a while, and I followed the paces pretty good all the way through. Here again, they would take the cadets up to Camp Borden for 2 weeks in the summertime, and they would all get trained in on Harvard trainers, which is what you were just saying. And that was another kick in the head I got that I didn't really want. I really wanted to fly. In fact, that's, I think, the direction I was probably heading to when I was going to high school. I really wanted to fly. I would like to play football, but I don't think I would have made that my career. My career, I would have liked to be a pilot. That didn't happen either. So things changed. But I was going to say, during the time that we were playing tennis, there was 6 of us. There was John and myself and 3 other guys. And we would go up to the tennis courts at 7 o'clock at night after we had dinner, and we would play till 11 o'clock, till the lights went out. When that happened, we would come home. We have the double garage. In the garage, we had a ping pong table set up and a card table. So 4 guys would play at euchre, 2 guys would play ping pong, losers would switch. And that went on for ages. We got to be pretty good at it. We got to be good ping pong players. Excuse me.
Oh dear. You mentioned tennis, Dad, and baseball. The Desjardins Canal, did you do some skating down there? Did you ever play some shinny or pick up hockey?
No. Desjardins Canal.
Or swimming? Did you ever go swimming in there or
I don't
fishing?
think so. I'm trying to. I don't.
Uncle Len, the Desjardins
Yeah,
Canal
I was just saying, I don't recall that they got involved with that at all. I never swam down there, but I was down there when they were swimming in it.
Yeah.
And I recall that they had a couple of boathouses, nothing like what we've seen at what you showed here with that Manville. And they would be diving off in the boathouse. And I guess no problem because the boats used to come in and turn around. The water was deep enough. But in the winter time,
That's
I
it.
can recall skating from there down to Princess Point. We'd take our hockey stick and play hockey on the way down, shoot the puck and chase it. But it was cold, going down through there, God, it was cold.
What were you going to
I
say?
do remember that. Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, we did skate down the Discharge Canal to the end, where that bridge,
Yeah, Princess Point.
Princess Point, yeah, and and there would be sometimes along the way that there would be some water in the side, like that didn't get frozen or whatever, but we never had any accidents or anything.
And they had the toboggan runs there too, didn't they? I never got on those, but I think
Yeah.
you guys did.
And
Didn't you get on the toboggan runs?
I suppose I don't know. But I remember skating on that going all the way down in the cold winters but I know one thing, that people used to catch catfish in the summertime would catch catfish in the Discharge Canal and clean them and bring them up to my father. He enjoyed fish, especially fish caught from the Discharge Canal. If they get some really nice catfish, as long as you know how to clean them. So yeah, my dad, he enjoyed his catfish and his little cottontails that were caught. Someone would catch little cottontails and we'd have some rabbit sometimes. So in those days, it wasn't roast beef, and it was cottontails or catfish caught from Discharge Canal. Anyway.
Well, there's so much to talk about, but you must tell the motorcycle story.
If you remember.
Motorcycle story.
You must tell the story about pushing Uncle Joe on the Henderson.
Push, yeah. Well, that's a good story. It's one of my favorite stories. And why not? I'm still alive to tell it. Anyway, my brother and I came home from school. I guess it could have been in the fall of the year or whatever. But this man that worked in the Bertram's factory asked my father if he could park his motorcycle behind my dad's store, because there was quite a bit of room back there. There were three garages, and then what they called, my mother had her summer kitchen, it was like a shed. It was a wooden shed, so my dad let him park the motorcycle back there. Anyway, this day my brother is older, but he knew how to start this motorcycle, and so when we came home, lunch wasn't quite ready, so we go at the back, and Joe starts up the motorcycle, and he says, "No, you push me back," because I would push him back, and then he would drive it forward, because he knew how to. It was a Henderson with a spring clutch, just like a car. In those days, it was a spring clutch, and even my brother he just knew how to. He knew a little bit about cars and a bit about motorcycles, so I had to push him back, and then he would drive it up, and I'd push him back, and he would drive it up. After a few times, I said, "Come on, how about me? My turn. If you can do it, I can do it." So he broke down, and he let me on this motorcycle. Well, my legs being shorter, I could barely reach the clutch, you might say, to activate this, to make this motorcycle go. But what happened was, I revved it up, and I got the clutch ready, and I started to drive it ahead. When I was going ahead, my foot slipped off the clutch, and I didn't hit the brake in time, and I was revving it up. I went right through my mother's summer kitchen, and boards and it went everywhere, and I ended up halfway through, smashed all the motorcycle, and of course my dad comes on the scene with So I knew that was bad news. So anyway, I never did make it back to school that day. But that was a story that I was glad to be alive, because going through if the boards had gone towards me, I would have been dead.
Well, there was one piece, because a big point come right down in front of his nose. Another 2 or 3 inches, it could have gone right through his head.
Anyway,
Uncle Len, you were always interested in music. Tell us about your music lessons, your singing lessons, and where it took you.
Well, this come on kind of late for me. I was in my good 20s when I started to study, and I started with a very nice lady in Hamilton. Her name was Winifred Johnson, and she had a son by the name of Bernard. And of course, there was a Bernard Johnson who was top notch at the thing in New York.
The academy, as it was.
Juilliard.
Well, anyway, wasn't the same Johnson, it was a different Johnson, but her son, he was a baritone, and a very, very rich baritone. Like, when this guy let go, boy, you could feel the roof shake. He had his own show on Channel 2, Buffalo. He was married, and I think he had 3 kids. And I was doing fairly well with the mother. And at the time, he was probably at the top end of the stick, and he got his children into doing commercials at the time. And this is going back a lot of years. For the cut, they got $1,500 each, just to do the cut of the commercial, and then they would get the residual every time it was played. Nevertheless, he got to be so famous and so good that he started doing a little bit too much of the sauce, and he did himself in. He didn't. He just, he lost out. And I was still plugging away, and finally she says to me, she says, "Well, you have to get some exposure. You're going to have to do something." And she said, "I know what you can do." She says, the Players Guild is putting on a skit called Drama Days, which is a mixture of everything. She said, "I think you should go and audition for it," which I did. And I got in. And this was my first outing to perform in front of an audience. And it got to be the funniest thing I ever did. There was 3 other guys. Chuck Hayes was one of them, and there was a brother to the movie star, Alan Alda, his brother, and another guy, I forget his name. Anyway, I was originally scheduled to do a number from Kismet, which I had to dress in costume, which was the turban and the big bloomers and the whole bit. Prior to that, we had to do a Shakespearean skit, so we had to dress in Shakespearean with a funny hat and a little short jacket, and we all wore leotards. So we goes trotting out on the stage, and as soon as we got on the stage, everybody started to laugh. And the other 3 guys had little skinny legs like this, and I'm the only one with fat legs, so I figured that's the only thing it could be, plus the costumes. Anyway, we got through the skit, and then it came time for me to do my solo. And I was pretty nervous. So I trot out on stage in my costume, Kismet costume, with the big blonde bloomers and everything, and again they started to laugh. But what to make matters worse, the spotlight didn't come on, so I'm standing there kind of in the dark. They could see me, but so I'm waiting, and the piano player is playing the intro. He keeps playing the intro, but I'm not coming in. So I look up to see where the light is. As soon as I looked up, the guy turned the light on. It went on, and I got blinded. Now I don't know what to do. I didn't know whether to fall down or stand up. So we finally got the intro going, and I finally got started, and I got through the number, and I just trying to remember what did happen after that. I forget what happened. Anyway, I got through it, and I guess that was my introduction into an audience, and from then on, I did a lot of competition work, and I did well.
You always enjoyed music. Did either of you spend time at the old music hall? Did you used to go up there for dances?
I did.
Tell us what you remember of that.
Yeah, well, it was called Club 42. Like, it wasn't. See, this was in my time when I at my age area, and they were above that, so they never got into that. But I was into it with a lot of there was 42 kids involved, and they started this club, and they used to go up to there, and we used to. They played all kinds of, Glenn Miller music and stuff like that, and we used to diddle dug and have a great time.
Daddy, did you go up to
Club
Music
42.
Hall?
I'm trying to think. Yeah, probably we did, but it was from 42 to 44. My brother and I were in the army. We were in the army. That was it.
Yeah.
We were in there. So he was in the bowling alley was behind the music hall.
Yeah.
I remember we were growing up, going in the Dundas bowling alley, and we played on teams and so on. But yeah, we enjoyed that. But I guess I know I did go in the music hall, but I just forget when. But I know it was quite a lot of fun.
You, I'd like to hear about sleighing down the Sydenham Hill.
Sydenham?
Yeah.
On the
you
bobsleighs?
On your sleighs.
Well, you started anyway. You were the youngest.
There was, I guess, probably 2 or 3, maybe 4 of them that were going to St. Augustine's. There were a few of them that had bobsleighs. I don't even know where we got ours from, but I thought it was a dandy. It's a good, big, long one, and it worked good.
It held what, 4 people? 4?
Oh yeah.
It was
And what we would do if we got tired walking and a car was going by, in those days the bumpers were open at the back, the old style bumpers, and we'd sneak up and hook the rope onto the bumper, and we'd get a tow up the hill. Most of the time we never had any problem. Nobody ever complained. I guess they knew what we were up to. But in those days, the bridge there part way up, that's all new now, and it was wood. It was all wood, so the snow wouldn't accumulate on there like it did on the road part. Some of it would fall through because there's quite a gap. But then there's a turn right there at the bottom, like part way down. Well, from the top, from the lookout down, you could pick up a lot of speed with one of those things. Geez, like it wasn't maybe as fast as what the big ones are, professional ones, but it was fast. So we're all on there going down there like a bat out of you know what, and we get close to the corner, everybody says, lean. So you'd have to go this way, hoping that you could keep it on, and instead straight through right into the bushes, upside down. We only did that a couple of times, but we got through. Periodically, we'd make the turn, and that would take us right down to King Street. Yeah. And there was no cars back then. There was very, very few cars on the road, especially when there was a lot of snow. And we just had a great time.
What do you remember of that, Dad? Some of your memories of the sleigh?
Well, pretty much the same, was my father-in-law who had a team of horses coming back from Royal Oak Dairy with, and he would let us tow on his wagon and to pull us up the hill like you get. But it was dangerous. But in those days there wasn't a lot of traffic. But and we wiped out quite a few times, especially on the very very major turn at the bottom of the hill before you started to go down Sydenham. But it did. It would take us right. It was a great ride. It would take us right down to the. Now it's the Bank of Commerce Road, or Bank of Commerce corner, Bank of Montreal. But
So you mentioned your future father-in-law, but you didn't know that Mr. Morelli would be your future father-in-law then,
not
did you?
then, not then, not then.
Tell us how you met Mum.
Oh, well,
She was at the
She was-
bank, wasn't she?
excuse me. Yeah, she worked in the Bank of Commerce, and I used to see her this was in those days, and walking, and I thought, damn, I should get to know that young lady. So I would go into the bank, and she worked in a cage. In those days, they had a steel cage for the head teller, and I would give her a quarter and ask her for 25 pennies, and then she'd give me the 25 pennies, and I would. A couple of days later, I get the 25 pennies, and I take them back and ask her for a quarter. So I did that a few times, and finally, she said, I maybe there's more to this than pennies, So anyway, that's how I got to meet my wonderful wife, and so.
Now you've mentioned a couple of times, both of you, that Daddy, you and Uncle Joe went off to war. When was that, and what was that like?
Well, that was
You're both drafted, weren't you?
39?
in 19. Let's see, I came back in 45. Yeah, I think it was for my brother went off before me because he was older, and he got drafted first, and then and he ended up going to Jamaica, and I went in the army but maybe a year later, and I went to. I went to Halifax first, and then I was drafted to Newfoundland. Excuse me. So, yeah, that was quite good, and of course from then on we went. Our group went to. We were in Newfoundland. That was it. We went to Torbay. It was an airport. It was one of the airports in Newfoundland. We in the anti-aircraft. We had anti-aircraft guns surrounding the airport, and yes, then we had a practice shooting at drogues before. We were there to guard the airport, and then we spent some time. And then we moved into the city, and we were on surrounding the part of the entrance where the boats came in, the entrance to the city. And we were there for some time, but it all went by so fast. We were there for a couple of years, but time went by quite fast.
Uncle Len, working in the store, what is your fondest memory of working in Picone's?
Oh, John.
Were there particular customers that you really liked, or?
Well, yeah, there was quite a few customers that we got to be very close with. In fact, Joe, my brother Joe, he socialized with one couple. They worked at Leonard's Mill on top, and they were quite close with the family. They used to come in and talk to my mom and dad and call them Mama and Pop. And they were in the store almost every day for something. Other than that, it was just a case of meeting people, and we had such nice people, friendly people, and they were no problem. You could serve them, and we did. We had to serve them. That was the way it worked. We rounded everything up, and we had to add it up on paper and take it out to the car, the whole bit. But being born and raised into it, it just seemed to come easy to all of us because we just loved it. And I followed the trail right up until the end. I was always around people, and I enjoyed that. That was my life.
Daddy, what about you? What's some memories of the store that are really fond and precious?
Well, there was For one thing, my mother and dad loved having us there when we were after especially coming back from the war, and they give us sort of more freedom in doing some of the buying and doing some of the things that my dad would do, and of course, as Leonard said, that our clientele was just wonderful in the town. The townspeople, they were so friendly that it's obvious that we thought we could stay there forever. It was just so wonderful. We were making a living, and we were happy, and as you say, we were born and raised into it, so it came natural to us. It was a love of life, and we really enjoyed working along with our parents, but naturally that with families, with wife and family, children, we had to break up and leave, and that was sad, but they had wonderful in a way, because it gave us some responsibility of knowing what it's like to start up yourself, to try to, because that's our ambition is to get up one of our own stores and start out just the same as our parents did. But I think probably the wonderful thing that really happened was the wisdom that my father and my mother, but in the business out of it, my dad had that knowledge of quality and what it takes to survive and what it takes to win, and he always drilled that into us, that you had excellence was the what you strive for, and you wouldn't settle for second best, and all the people he dealt from, they knew what Joe wanted. Joe had to have the best, so having that drilled into us, it made us realize to be successful, you had to work hard and strive for excellence as we were brought up, and so that's I guess the wonderful thing was having parents that cared and loved you, that wanted to let you go in the world and be able to handle it.
Mm-hmm. Uncle Len, you don't live in Dundas any longer, but can you think of a person when you were young, when you were maybe in elementary school or maybe in high school? Was there a figure or a person in Dundas that you recall or that you admired or really looked up to? Anybody that stands out? A teacher at St. Augustine's, perhaps, or anything like that?
I can remember a few nuns that I didn't like.
Oh, we can leave it at that.
Being left-handed, they didn't like me either.
Well, that's okay.
Offhand, I can't put a name to anyone in particular. Everyone was just so good to us. They were all super good, and we were treated so well.
Well, you think about that one. Can you tell us about your visits to the doctor's office? Did you used to go to see Dr. Bates at the old doctor's office?
Yes, I did go there.
You know what I have to ask you? I'm going to move this. Devin, hang on a second, because I think what's happening is you're brushing against it. There, I'll move it up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But the little old office that we have here,
Yeah.
you used to go there.
I'm trying to think of how old I was, because it seems to me I went there by myself, and it was just. Of course, we all pretty well know how big that office was now that it's moved in part of the museum. But Dr. Bates he was an icon. He was just something else. He just was so good, and he always took his patience, but yeah, that was it. You would just go in the office there and sit down. They'd call you, and he would look after you. But it was.
We have time for one more question. Really?
Yeah.
Could you try to describe what you think makes Dundas special? You've been here all of your life. What makes Dundas to you very special?
Well, it's the fact that probably most of the retail people on the main street are property owners, and they are, and so they own they own the business, so they take a lot more interest in their clientele. So I think that's the reason why it's been so successful. People get a great feeling of shopping in Dundas because they're always spoken to, and they always they can get lots of help, and of course it's growing, and it's getting to be the new shops coming in, but I think that's the reason it's so successful, because people get a good feeling in Dundas when they go into these stores, and people acknowledge them, and they get to know that I'm talking with the owner of this shop, and they always go away with some kind of a story of something about Dundas maybe they would like to know, and the new people that are coming in are picking up the same attitude that's been gone before them. So I think Dundas is a very popular place right now after all these years.
Uncle
And
Len?
Picone's especially are being there all these years, and my brother's family that are taking it over now have really done a marvelous job. But for them it's just natural. It's just natural. They have a love of the store. They have a love of their people, and they're just doing a great job. And they've made the necessary changes to enhance that business. So that's what it needs. You have to be ready for change, for changes.
Uncle Len, Dundas is to you. You must have very special. It's been a special place. Like, and you live in Hamilton. Do you regret that at all? Like that you?
Well, no. Part of the reason is that we lucked out on where we were able to buy, and the convenience of where we are. Like our church is a half a block from our house. The bus line is 2 blocks from our house, and everything was convenient. Mm-hmm. So it didn't give me an opportunity to say, well, I'm sorry I did it. I would have preferred to. We looked around here after we were married, but there was nothing that was in our reach. That what they were building was way out of my territory. I couldn't afford it. Mm-hmm. But I liked it here. I think back in my time anyway. People seemed to be concerned. They were willing to help you if you needed help. There was a much nicer feeling with the people that we were in contact with. All the people that we knew, and I can't say that I don't have it now, because I'm fortunate to have a lot of good neighbors. I've had super neighbors right since the day one. Like on either side of me, when we moved in, they were elderly. We were the first young people to come to that neighborhood. Well, both sides of me were old, older than us. But they both took to us like parents. Like they were giving us stuff all the time. They were concerned about us. And it just made me feel like I was at home because this was a feeling here.
Yeah.
You know, you were out and you needed help, you got help. Just like that. No problem.
We could talk forever, but that's an hour.